show Gotham who's top dog around here.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're now covering the DC animated movie Batman Bad Blood. Not to be confused with the Taylor Swift song.
Set as a sequel to Son of Batman and Batman vs. Robin, Batman is gone missing, and remaining Batfamily members elect to defend Gotham themselves. A team of new allies and solve the mystery behind the Bat's disappearance. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notifications on future podcasts and little pause videos.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, subscribing, sharing our videos, and supporting us. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
So this was actually the 25th film in the DC animated universe and the 6th film in the DC animated movie universe.
Really? That's correct. Because at one point they tried to make cinematic universe out of a lot of the DVD movies by having them all be in adapting stories and take place in one time.
Mm-hmm. And while it wasn't a direct adaptation of any particular comic or storyline, it was derived from Grant Morrison's run on Batman, the Leviathan story arc.
Right. And for this one, they also end up using this storyline for the Gotham Knights video game, though with a different ending altogether for what happens to Batman. And at the time this came out, this was pretty different for DC to do, because their direction they wanted to go was to do darker stories, stuff that was a little more graphic, a little more violent things, and
they succeeded.
Right. And then what's even more ironic is that considering the stuff they make now and they can freely get away with on streaming services, now this looks pretty tame in comparison.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yep, because you got Harley Quinn and stuff that does way worse than this movie.
Yeah. This is a direct-to-video movie. Mm-hmm. It runs about 72 minutes. I'm not sure if this counting credits or not. And it is almost non-stop action. There's something going on all the time, even when they're just having conversations with each other.
Yeah.
And they're not fighting. It's like a verbal action.
You're right, verbal action.
Just something going on the whole time.
Right.
And there's no sense of calm at any time.
Right, it's always
during
tense.
This movie.
From the time Batman's gone all the way to the ending.
From the time to get on screen.
Yeah.
Immediately as the movie opened, they didn't hesitate. It wasn't like 2 minutes in and it started.
Right, with the action and the violence and everything. So I guess they wanted you to get a feel that just as they're uneasy and the city's uneasy, the audience would feel uneasy, like not knowing what was going to happen to the characters. Because for a while, Dick Grayson has been pretending to be Batman in his place. Since he was gone for a long time and there has been more crime, he had decided to take on the cowl temporarily to scare him to thinking that he came back quickly and trying to keep things safe while Bruce was missing.
What would have been funny if one of the characters he fought went, "You're not my Batman. Who are you?"
Oh man, that would have been hilarious. But somehow he imitated it very well.
You, right? So the voice cast was a great cast, and you had some reprising their roles from the previous film. Mm-hmm. And you had Morena Baccarin returning from Son of Batman as Talia al Ghul. Thank goodness she ended in this one.
Right.
And Yvonne Strahovski joined as Batwoman. So very quickly, Jason O'Mara, Bruce Wayne and Batman. Mm-hmm. Stuart Allen, Damian Wayne Robin. Mm-hmm. Sean Marr, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, and Batman 2.
Uh-huh.
Steve Blum was Black Mask and Firefly. Mm-hmm. John DiMaggio was Blockbuster and Tusk. Robert Acton Downs. Yep. Bernie Hudson.
Yes.
As Lucius Fox.
That was a shock to see.
And Matthew Mercer as Hellhound.
Yes.
And Chucky Soul. And I caught that voice. You caught Jason Spacek.
Yes,
as
I did.
Melba Porter, Killer Moth, and Nora Cutler.
Yes.
And you had Travis Willingham, you had Carrie
this was your star-studded voice cast.
Yes, so this was during the time when DC put out really good movies. Movies you look forward to that were animated, that were just as exciting as live-action movies.
Yes.
And they were at one time the masters of the animated superhero movies. Marvel could not touch them.
That's true.
Marvel was the master during Stan Lee's reign.
Right.
Of the theatrical superhero movie.
Yes.
DC controlled and ruled the animated superhero movie.
Exactly. And it's great
And now
you mentioned.
neither rules either.
Ooh, and it's not funny when you mention that because there have been a couple posts online on X and other sites where DC's going back to the roots of making animated shows. Because remember, we used to love every single one that came out, and stuff we found later turned out to be all good. Now they've got Revenge of Superman, they've got Creature Commandos coming, they've got Blue Beetle anime series coming out, a Batman anime series. And it's like DC decided to finally go back to what was working all this time.
Not really, because one problem with the Blue Beetle series is it's not going to be based on the Young Justice version or a comic version. It's going to be a continuation from the movie. That was a failure. So why would you take...
Which is weird. They decided to keep going anyway.
Yes.
I guess they said, well, audiences like this, so screw that.
So clearly they're not going in the direction they were going, or back to their roots, because they are going to do something just with that one show coming out that doesn't make any sense. If the movie's a failure, why in the heck do you think a series based on a failure movie is going to be a successful series?
Right.
So I think from that you can kind of guess that what we're going to get is not going to be what we're wanting, or with the quality of what we used to get,
right,
like with this movie.
Right.
So as you mentioned, it was really violent and really action-packed.
Yeah,
we had a Dick Grayson that was still respectable, not talking about hating Batman
right,
and all this other garbage. You had a Damian that was still a Damian, that was still a badass,
right,
child assassin.
Right.
You had a worse Talia Ghul, though. This is the worst Talia Ghul ever.
Yes.
And I don't mean in terms of character writing and in terms of performance. She was evil to the core. She seemed more evil than Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, because this was the worst she had gotten, which felt probably a little weird for people because how she acted the first movie, where it was just like, well, she got Damian, away from the crowd that happened with Ra's al Ghul, happened with Deathstroke and everything, and gave him some more safe. Now in here, it seemed like she kind of did a 180, and they don't really explain what made her have this really bad change of heart here.
And she doesn't even love Damian in here. She could care less if
weird.
he died.
Yeah.
And we were just like,
what happened?
This is a horrible Talia.
Now, I could see the one
see this version again.
But
this will be the one they pick up.
Right, go figure, right?
This will be the one they would base a whole series on and decide, ooh, she was bad. She was powerful. She was
like, now you want to do it.
And all of this. So let's give her a series and be like, this is the one version nobody wants to see.
Right. And
the one version no one wants to see would be the one they would make.
Of course, like, now you want to do it, right? And then you had the addition of Batwoman and Batwing into here, who they never used again in the animated movie.
And I forgot to mention Gaius Charles voicing Luke Fox and Batwing. Thank you.
Oh, okay. And what was strange about this is that if you watch the CW and they're never wanted to speak about again Batwoman series, they have both characters in there too, but they were completely different characters from this animated one.
But quite a bit of the storyline for her was taken from this movie and used as part of the CW series.
Right. And they took it and twisted into something where it wasn't nearly as entertaining or interesting as it was here. Now here, Batwoman still had her personal struggles. You saw her backstory and how she ended up becoming Batwoman. Like she says, she's not part of Batfamily or anything, even though she has the symbol. Well, clearly it does mean that, and clearly him saving her made an impact because she made a Batwoman costume. It was an entirely different way of her becoming this character. And Batwing, who also was an entirely different character, went from this really battle-ready soldier who wanted to help and get not the vengeance, but make sure whatever happened to his dad being hospitalized didn't happen to anyone else. He wasn't just going to stand by and let them keep doing this crap. And he donned the suit and wanted to help too. They were both really interesting characters in here.
Yeah.
When they got to CW, Batwoman was unfortunately didn't want to see her really, of how arrogant she was. And then Batwing was completely taken and toned down. He was a wuss and everything. And we gave him his Batwing costume. It wasn't even anything you recognize. They made him ineffective and just made him, oh, he's the nerdy tech guy no one takes seriously, and everything else was changed, which is why I think it's really sad that this is the only time we have these versions of these characters be really likable and interesting.
True, very true. And it was great that there was a whole cavalcade of DC superhero characters that appeared in this movie.
Yeah.
And what I really like about it, again, it was during a time when the characters were included and they had a purpose, not just making cameos or just for filler.
Yeah.
They actually had a part to play in the storytelling of the movie unfolding.
Right.
And now it's just like, oh, let's put 60 characters in.
Good grief.
We're gonna have 60 in this movie. We're gonna have every Spider-Man appear in the movie just for the sake of doing it.
We're gonna have a 3-part movie with every character we've ever created in 3 films.
But what I love about these older DC animated movies is that every character served a purpose, and the movies were well written. They took the time to write them just as if they were entertaining live action.
Right.
It mattered to them the quality. It mattered to them the storytelling, the characters, the voice acting, the animation. It was all really important to them, and now unfortunately it isn't.
Right.
So after this, a sequel titled Batman Hush was released in 2019, which we have covered. If you haven't seen it, it should be coming up sometime during this podcast.
Right.
Give it a watch. You'll enjoy it. Hush was really, really different for Batman.
Definitely.
As well. And actually, back before Rotten Tomatoes was being compromised, they actually gave this movie a 100% rating.
Wow. So that means they really did genuinely love it.
So if you've seen Batman Bad Blood, let us know what you think in the comments. Do you love it? Did you hate it? Do you wish you could get these type of movies again? Tell us what you think. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's available to stream for sure on Prime. You can buy it. Give it a watch. Come back. Tell us what you think. And again, if you haven't seen Hush, which is the sequel after this one, be sure to give it a watch because it's very different from most Batman movies as well.
Definitely. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos for your anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
And once again, thank you so much for subscribing and for following and sharing our videos. It helps our channel out so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainments, and thank you for being
Our
specials.
specials. Have a toontastic day.
Peace.